Not long ago, me and my girlfriend were bored and decided to give an animation called Adventure Time a chance. I know from experience that this kind of animations can turn out to be quite amusing even for adults, so we decided to try it and we did not regret having made that decision. The animation is very entertaining, and so we decided to also give the game a chance. And speaking of the game, I mean Adventure Time Explore the Dungeon, because I don't know. It's a very long and stupid name, so let's dive in and talk about the negatives at first. One of the first things you will notice is that this game is designed to be a form of RPG. It's a dungeon crawler RPG, but it does not feature any actual leveling, at least not in the classical sense. Killing monsters gives you nothing except money. This money you need to carry outside to the hub world, and there you can pay vendors to upgrade your stuff. But killing stuff does not actually make you any better per se. You just get money with which you can upgrade. It sounds like it's kind of a leveling system, but it isn't, because there's so many ways to lose your money. Just a few of them being just re-entering the dungeon will take all your money away, or dying will cost you money. So there's all of this stuff. So it isn't the same as, for example, a Diablo game where you get experience, level up, and while fighting you can upgrade. No, you need to leave the procedurally generated dungeon, and you can't even do that at all times. Some doors require keys. If you don't have a key, which can spawn randomly from killing any kind of enemy, some of these doors will spawn a key warden. So if you go to the door and try to enter, you don't have a key, suddenly a key warden appears out of the door, you kill him, you get a key. The game teaches you early on about this, so you feel like you don't need to necessarily save keys for these special doors that you need to progress through the dungeon. Yet some doors never spawn a key warden, meaning that you need to go back, start grinding and hoping for a key drop, which can at times be very, very rare. The game unfortunately is riddled with bugs, and many of them cause crashes, and the crashes cause you to lose a lot of progress. That just really annoyed me. I had to replay so many sections. We lost at times up to an hour and more even in terms of progress, and that just really annoyed us. It's terrible, but the game crashes many times. Let's just say that in about 15 hours of playtime, we have probably lost easily between 4 and 5 hours. That means that we actually played about 20 hours, but the game would have been done after 15 if we didn't have to replay it so much. So much so, in fact, that at times we would just stop because we're bored to replay the whole thing and play again on another day just to get it out of our system for a while. While I did mention that you cannot level up in the classical sense, you still need to improve your abilities by buying those improvements from the vendors, which requires you to grind for money, because the dungeons get harder as you go deeper, and unfortunately, if you want to get better at this, you're going to actually have to collect money and get these improvements, whether you like it or not. Grinding is just always terrible, so there's no way for me to describe how bad this is, especially when everything feels so repetitive in this game. Many of the ultimate abilities of the characters, because each of them have different ultimate abilities for which you charge up a bar, are actually quite useless. So there are some which do damage, and those usually are the best ones. There's some that will heal a little bit, but there are others that are just really bad altogether and are useless. So even if you like some characters from the show, you would actually be losing if you decided to go for these characters simply because of their ultimate abilities being so lame. I did mention how repetitive this game can be because of the many enemies. Although they change throughout the game, they are pretty much shown 99% from the start. The changes are minimal, and they just change an enemy which you already know slightly by, for example, giving them an additional attack. All in all, it feels like the game's rehashing enemies and making it repetitive. But of course, another thing that we have here is the procedurally generated levels. That is horrible. I hate it, because whenever a computer generates levels, it just does a sloppy job, and it never looks like there's been enough love put into it. I've seen it in other games. I always hate it. A handcrafted level will always be much better than one crafted by some kind of algorithm. It creates repetitive levels, lame levels, and partially nonsensical ones, and that's something we'll see here as well. When it comes to the bosses, after several levels of depth, they don't have any health bars, there are no instructions on how to beat them, and they usually have some kind of a gimmick to them. Just hitting them will in most cases not result to a win for you. So if you want to play the game, you best take a look at walkthroughs so you can have an idea on how to defeat the bosses, because there's no kind of information coming your way telling you whether you're doing a good job or you're just wasting your time hitting something that's immortal. There's not even some kind of a response from bosses most of the time when you hit them. They just keep floating. You don't know if you're doing damage. You might be, but you don't know that. And that is just terrible game design. Unfortunately, I had to resort to walkthroughs to find out how to defeat the bosses, because otherwise I would have just quit the game because it got so repetitive and annoying. During the levels, you have several types of enemies which are straight out unfair. For example, the charging reindeer being just one of the many examples. This is an enemy who can usually kill you within one strike. He has a charge attack which makes him dart at super high speed, and he mostly will do it outside of the screen. So that means you're just walking, you see no enemy, and suddenly from somewhere an enemy charges at you, hits you, and you're dead. It sucks so bad. And this happens with many other enemies as well, just unfair enemies are something you need to get used to, and further in the game you're going to be meeting these enemies more and more often. This game can be played in co-op, which is pretty sweet, but of course you can also go solo. If you want to do that though, you're gonna be demolished. The game is super hard when playing alone, much harder than if you play with a friend, because the difficulty does not really seem to scale in any way, and just having a second person to revive you and help you is on its own a huge help, not to mention that the second person can also defeat the enemies. It's just you need more people. The more people there are, the easier the game gets. I haven't had the chance to try it with 3 or 4, but I can imagine it can get really chaotic simply because of all the stuff that's happening on the screen. Among the bugs that I've mentioned, there's one that has a special spot in my heart, and that's the loot drops inside walls. You kill an enemy, he drops gold, and the gold falls inside a wall because the enemy died next to the wall. There's no way for you to get it. It's super annoying, and it will happen so many times. The dungeon is designed to be a maze, obviously, but you do get a map. However, the map does not show you the wall layout, meaning that essentially you never know how to reach from A to B. You walk around, down, up, down, up. You see there's a spot to the top right, for example, but you don't know how to reach it, so you're gonna have to walk around. That of course is wasting your time again, and that of course will frustrate you. You have multiple characters to choose from, but unfortunately they get unlocked as you progress to the story. Some of them being unlocked very late into the story, meaning that by then you will have upgraded some characters. Taking a new one just is a bad choice, because you will leave an upgraded character in the pack and take a character who's basically absolutely lame and weak and start playing with them. That's just a bad choice, and it's a bad game design. What I can guess is that they actually expected you would want to replay the game because all the characters are available then, and then level these up, but trust me, nobody will want to replay this game. At least I can't imagine it. Throughout the game you can drop familiars, and these familiars are very useful in most cases. Unfortunately, there are some that are really bad and hurting you in many ways, and that sucks. Unfortunately, there's no way to get rid of that familiar unless you actually get a new one. I'm going to now address the visuals of the game. I know what pixel art is. It's an excuse for people to create games with graphics which are not something that you would see today. I know that some people also enjoy this, but I'm not amongst them. I find it lazy. If you want to give me a game in 2017 or in 2016, I think that game came out 2016 actually. I might be wrong, don't quote me on that one, but in any case it did not come before 2000. So if you want to give me a modern game, you better be ready to give me modern graphics with it. I can work with these here. Obviously I've played through the game, but especially in a game that is so bad, graphics can be a good way to make it appear a bit better than it already is. As you progress through the dungeon, some levels will get incredibly hard, and the deeper you go, obviously the difficulty will spike even more. However, through the many crashes that I have experienced and the progress that you lose, you end up being in these levels underpowered, annoyed, and just really not feeling for it. The crashes really made this game hard for me to play, above all. But the game becoming so incredibly difficult by the end did not help either. And unfortunately, while some quests will reward you, because you do get quests in the hub world, will reward you another skill point for something for free, so you don't actually need to collect money for it, the quest rewards only apply to player 1. So if you're playing with anyone else in couch co-op, you can have 4 players. Only player 1 is gonna get the upgrade. Or actually one of the players, it doesn't have to be player 1. But you don't get it for both. The game is not all shit. There are a few good things about it. You get bonus stages which essentially give you a timer, and you have to run through them and collect as much of the gold as you can. Or the alternative is trying to survive the timer while the bonus stage is filled with enemies. This can sometimes really suck. The story is minimal, yet it does connect to the story of the animation, so it is kind of fun. The game, if played in short bursts, can be entertaining, especially because there are multiple characters. All of them have their original voice actors voicing them, so that can make it pretty entertaining for people who like the animation. You have couch co-op, and you can have up to 4 players at the same time playing on one screen, which is something that we don't see nowadays, and is something that I appreciate greatly. Ultimately, however, these are the only good things I can say about the game. The game is essentially broken. I don't advise you play it, but if you're a huge fan of Adventure Time and you got a few hours to burn, give it a try. Otherwise, anyone else should just stay away from it. Thanks for watching and have a great day.